you find now out very dense. Yeah, it's Gosplan. Yeah, it's state planning until every detail. So state is first, and that means also that you can easily find it in historical concepts like Kemalism or Peronism, where the portion of the state or the part of the state in the economy was really huge. And which elite do you need for this kind of etatistic system? You need elite, and an elite that is that is more focused on keeping status quo, more focused on heritating their positions. So it's a kind of aristocracy, yeah, not named so. And we saw it also in the old Soviet system. And I found an old book very back in my library, which was called the Nomenklatura. That's a synonym, yeah, for this kind of elite. Yeah. So, okay. So what's the other side? What's the other concept? I think if you have to look on the question of elite in combination with the question of the system you're in favor of. And democracy is also always a system which should focus on the least state influence. Why that? Then you have a free market, you have innovation, you have progress, you have also rivalry amongst groups, you have competition, but the elite itself, will also be an elite, but it is not determined by the nomenclatura questions. It is determined by the state of being. So it's not forever, it's not indefinite. You have to obtain a position, you have to contribute knowledge, know-how, innovation to society, and at least it is not a concept of oppressing or possessing somebody or someone. It's more a concept of being advantage, so being more forward. And for me, it was also interesting when I heard the question and the presentation of the central bank, as I understood, to the Knesset, and they showed a lot of data, which is everything is proving that everything is good. Yeah? And excuse me for that, a little provocation, but if you have a bureaucracy, yeah, that is presenting a lot of data that shows everything is in favor of the current system, running as it is, so it is in the end in favor of the status quo. Yeah? So this is maybe an indicator for more etatistic approach, yeah? Which leads more to conserving the status quo than to the question of innovation. So the only way to come to on the so to speak on the free side, yeah, is to reduce state influence in the end, yeah, and open the market, but only the spheres they are eligible for the market. The spheres are not questions like, for example, national security. So that's my short input to this question, and thank you for having me.
Hello, everybody. I'm from Georgia. Many of Israelis already traveled to Georgia, but you know, we are Georgians very proud that we had 3,000 years of history of good relationship with Jews, and unfortunately we have less Jews now after Soviet Union, but we are still very happy to communicate and have business and etc. So I am representing a free market think tank, which is in Georgia. But we started in 21 years ago, this institute. But even before, during the Soviet times, I was very active, and I was one of the first maybe who predicted the Soviet economy would not stand more, because the central planning was absolutely wrong system, and I worked in the system inside, and I observed how difficult was every year. Not every year, every day was more. And when they started even reforms, it was even worse, because these reforms were not about free market, but about how to reorganize the central planning, which was absolutely stupid idea. So when Hans was talking about the bureaucracy in Soviet Union, I observed this by myself, and I can tell you many stories. I recently published the website of our Eastern Europeans. This is forliberty.eu. There's some stories about Soviet Union. I would recommend you to read them, because these are kind of demonstration what were the problems in Soviet Union. I'm dedicated to write more about these things, because as I said, not so many people understand what was really wrong in the economy of Soviet Union. There can be some theoretic talks about this, but not much less the reality about the reality. So, but what was the nomenclatura thing that nowadays, for instance, they are pushing us, the Westerners are pushing us to introduce the healthcare system, which is another collectivist idea, which is giving you the government provided healthcare and for everybody. And when you think what was in the Soviet Union, this was, of course, collectivist healthcare in Soviet Union. It failed absolutely, and you needed to pay for everything, the bribes in reality, because we were calling these bribes because it was illegal, and in reality it was the real payment for the service. But that was the same in the education, in many other sectors. So when you talk about healthcare in Soviet Union, so this was the real elitist type of healthcare, because the ordinary, absolutely bad quality hospitals were for everybody, but the elites, they had their own hospitals in somewhere. And for ordinary people, it was not achievable to go there. And this was the same with schools, etc., etc. So, but when Soviet Union collapsed, we started new life, independent life, and free market life. I swear nobody was crying about Soviet Union in Georgia, because Georgians, Jews, Armenians who lived in Soviet Georgia, they were entrepreneurs. They were always doing some business. So nobody was saying that, oh, we needed this, etc., etc. So we moved to the private sector very quickly, and people went to the streets and selling everything they could sell, etc., etc. So this is the reality. But on the other hand, what we observed then, this was a kind of big surprise for us, that Westerners were teaching us how to recreate socialism in our country. And I'll give you two examples. This is the taxation and regulation. Taxation for Georgia was created by the International Monetary Fund. They created a special kind of tax code, which they sent to many Eastern Europeans and told them that this is the model of tax system, you should have it in your country. So, and you can imagine the name was the tax code of the nation of Taxistan. This was a name. Believe me, it was a name. The tax code of Taxistan. So when after 3 or 4 years, we understood that there were already 4,000 amendments in that tax code. We understood what was the reality behind it. They asked my friend Bob Lawson, who is the author of the Economic Freedom Index at the Fraser Institute, how can he pay taxes? And he says he personally hires 5 people to pay taxes, to fill the forms, etc., etc. And then this is one of the things how the governments are oppressing the people. When you are not sure that you paid everything, what you do is that you are trying to be calm, you are trying to be hiding somewhere and not to shouting in the street that the government is doing wrong. And in many cases, when you know that government is overspending and wasting money, you prefer to stay at home and not going to the streets to strike against the government. For instance, the pack of cigarette in Georgia is like from 6 to 7 lari. Lari and shekel are equal, by the way. And from 7 lari, 6 lari is the tax. So nobody is protesting against 6 lari. They are protesting against 1 lari, which is, in reality, the profit can be even 1/5 of this 1 lari. Believe me, profit is 1/5 of 1 lari on 1 shekel. Yeah, and he takes 20 tetris, and the government takes maybe, I don't know, 15 times more. But they are always pushing the businesses. Why you are having such high prices? Yeah, and the second thing is about regulations. Try to read all kind of regulations, and you will be thinking that it's impossible to fulfill all the regulations. It's impossible. That and then it's not only about one of my favorite economists in the U.S. This is James Gortney, who is the author of the Economic Freedom of the World study, and he in his book, Common Sense Economics, he says that the expenses, the costs of the taxation are not only the tax money, but you are paying for filling all the forms, for the auditors,